Welcome back to another episode of Chelsea Story Nook Podcast. I'm your host, Chelsea Kim, aka your favorite homeroom teacher for shy students, Miss Chelsea. This is the show where we dive into personal journeys, life lesson, and what it truly takes to your next step up out of your shell. And today we have a wonderful guest joining to share their journey and insight into their latest book. I'm delighted to welcome our children's book author, Katie Gigliotti, the author of the book Wonderworld, You Are, and All My Love to Chelsea Story Nook Podcast. Welcome to the podcast, Katie.
Hi, Chelsea. Thank you so much for having me today. I really appreciate it.
Oh my God, I am super excited for Katie because her book, guys, she actually illustrated it and designed her actual book. This is amazing. This is, I think, the first author who actually illustrated and designed her own book. And I'm super curious about everything. I can't wait to interview her, everybody. So let's dive in. And can you introduce yourself to our listeners?
Okay, I'm Katie. And in addition to being an author and an illustrator, I'm also a full-time art teacher.
Oh.
I have a little bit of ADD, so sometimes I forget things or I have a hard time concentrating. But I'm basically just a big kid. I act like a kid. Ask my own kids. I definitely act like a kid. I love kidlit, and this whole writing journey has been such a blessing to me.
And let's talk about your book. This is such a cute book, by the way. And I read all of her books, by the way, guys. I highly recommend, not because, like, oh my goodness, look at this illustration. Can you let us know the summary and introduce us the main characters and share the core themes and messages you like the readers to take away?
Absolutely. So this was the first book that I wrote and illustrated, and it's actually a depiction of myself and my grandfather. Because when I was little, my grandparents were my babysitters, and he would take me to the library all the time. He taught me how to read, and he actually really encouraged me to be an author and illustrator. But
That's sweet.
this is actually a game that we would play, and I really think that he did it because he was older and he didn't really want to run around the house as much as like a 3 or 4 or 5 year old. But we would jump on the couch and he would just listen to me talk about different places and going on a trip. And as a teacher, I wanted to incorporate it with like school. So I decided to make it a trip around the 7 continents. And I decided to create like a little world, an imaginative adventure, if you will, that they go on. And then they end up, of course, back on the couch at home at the end. But this was also dedicated to him because even though he's no longer with us, I felt like it was really important to acknowledge the fact that he played such a big role in my writing and illustrating career.
I love that. And just to look through your book, is there any page you want to read? Like any favorite page you want to read to the audience right now? I feel like
I don't
every
know
page is
about.
so colorful. Oh my
I have
gosh.
some favorite illustrations for sure because they were fun to work.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if these actually have some little Easter eggs. Like in this one, I have my husband and myself here walking down the street.
What
And then
page is that?
this is when we are in Venice.
Oh,
Um,
Venice. Oh,
and
this is
then
fun. I get to like it's kind of like a treasure hunt, like kind of like a treasure map. Like
over
a
here is my son fishing on the dock. So I tried to incorporate, little Easter eggs in
beautiful.
there. And then in
I
the front
love
image,
that.
I
Hmm.
tried to incorporate some Easter eggs. This painting was a Van Gogh painting that my grandma had like a
Oh.
reproduction of. So
Uh-huh.
that was hanging in her house. And then this little duck right here was my daughter's absolute favorite toy when she was little. And my son had a blanket that was his favorite. So I put those on the couch too. So
That is
this is
so
little,
beautiful. I love that. And you guys have to see the YouTube video right now to see the illustration or go get yourself. Is this available on Amazon?
yes, yes.
Yes. So you guys go get yourself this book or see it on YouTube right now and see all the illustration. It's so beautiful. As you can see, the details of the illustration, the writing, and everything. And again, could you walk us through how you became an author and what experiences influenced your journey?
In 2020, obviously, the world kind of shut down for a little bit. And as a teacher, I had a little bit of extra time. My kids were a little older, so I decided to try something new. And I stumbled upon a Facebook group that was talking about children's books. So
Mm.
um, I kind of dove right in. And at first, I really didn't believe that I could illustrate a book. Um, so I kind of went back and forth, and I was like, well, I had written several manuscripts, and I was like, man, what am I going to do? I can't illustrate this. I need to find an illustrator. And then a colleague reached out and asked if I would illustrate a book for her. And so I was like, okay, well, if she thinks I can do it, maybe I can. And I did illustrate her book, which is this one, the
Mm.
Giraffe Who Loves School. And
Mhm.
um, and then that gave me the confidence to go ahead and start on this one. And
Mm.
I was able to do a lot of research. I took a couple classes, and I am by no means an expert, but I was able to write, illustrate, format, and cover design everything that I've done.
That is wonderful. And Katie, guys, it's both a teacher and an author, and we're very curious. How do you manage to both juggle these roles? And how do you navigate these two worlds without feeling overwhelmed? And are there any particular struggles or habits you develop that could help others successfully balance teaching and writing?
Ooh, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
The short answer is summer, because
Ah, yes.
luckily, as a teacher, you do have a bit of time off in the summer. So I do
Mm,
try to get as much done as I can during those summer months.
yeah.
Um, but I've also been teaching for almost 20 years. So
Mm.
I, I've kind of developed a good work-life balance. And
Um,
I definitely have enough time in the evenings if I don't get lazy
mm,
to write and illustrate. So
mm,
I'm not big on schedules. I don't follow them very well, but
mm,
I feel like if you are passionate enough about something and you really truly
mm,
want it, you're going to make the time for it. So,
mm.
and that's kind of what I tried to do.
Yeah, if you have the passion for it, yeah, you will have the time for it. I feel like the time just goes on and you don't feel overwhelmed until summer hits. Like I was a teacher myself too, and I felt that during summertime. I'm like, oh, I gotta be busy. And then first week, you feel that you need to do something, so you clean the kitchen, you do something, right? And then later, you feel like your body just rests in the sofa for a bit, I think for good 3 weeks. And then you're like, oh, it's gonna start, it's fall already. And you have to do lesson planning and you get busy again. And I think the whole cycle starts again. I don't know about you. That's how I felt.
Yeah. And honestly, the summertime I used to like when my kids were little, that they took up my whole summer,
Ah,
spending
yes.
time with them, doing, taking them places, trying to, because as a teacher, even in the evening, sometimes you're busy.
Ah,
And
yes.
so you try to make up for that, in the summertime. But
Mm, yes.
as I
And
got older,
uh-huh.
my kids are, well, my daughter's an adult now, and my son's in high school. So now it's become a little easier for me to take some time to do the things that I like to do.
Hey there, listeners. Before we go back to the podcast interview, if you love our podcast and want to reach out and engage audience, we got great news. We're now accepting brand deals, sponsorships, and promotion. Whether you're a brand looking to connect with passionate listeners or a business wanting to make an impact, we love to collaborate. Reach us out at chelseastorynook@gmail.com to discuss how we can feature your brand in our episodes. Let's create something amazing together. Now, back to the show.
And what has been the most challenging part of your journey as an author or balancing multiple roles?
Probably getting things done. Like I
Ah,
mentioned
yes.
before, I do have ADHD, so lists and following through on things is kind of tough for me. Um,
Mhm.
but and it takes a while to illustrate a book too. So I have too many ideas and not enough time to do them. And
Mm.
although I would love to, do this full time, it's, not feasible. My biggest challenge though is marketing
Mm.
because I don't really like putting myself out there. Like this is very scary for me right now.
Oh,
And I am very
right.
like I'd like to be more behind the scenes, but I know that's not something
Mm.
that I can do. So
Mhm.
it's also learning the whole skill of how do you make a sale and how do
Yeah.
you get your work out there in the world for people to know about it.
Oh, wow. That's great. And like I can see that you're trying to overcome that as well in within yourself too, right? I feel like as an adult too, we feel like we overcame that fear already, but when we step into this new journey as an author, I feel like we're like, wait, we have this new fear unlocked. We're like, oh man, what is this going? We're trying to win over yourself. If you could go back in time, what advice would you give to your younger self?
That's a really good question because my biggest piece of advice would be to not be so afraid and to
Mm,
start sooner.
mm,
Um, if
I
I
love
had
that.
started this a long time ago, I would be
Mm,
light years ahead of where I'm at. And I know
mm,
I'm where I'm at because that's where I'm supposed to be at this point in time in my life. So and also don't be afraid to try something new and put yourself out there.
mm, that's
Um,
good.
my grandfather has had tried to get me to illustrate a book since I was probably 10 years old. And
Oh,
I never believed that I could do it. And it took until I was almost 40 years old to figure that out and to
mm,
gain that confidence. So that is something that I can't that time I can't get back. And I wish I could, but again, I'm glad I'm where I'm at now.
mm. Wow. And you can kind of advise those who are listening right now. It doesn't matter how old they are, right? They might be 100 years old or 10 years old. Maybe if they're listening, I don't know if you're that young, guys, probably you should have a parent consent listening to this. But I mean, whatever. That's cool that you're listening. Thank you for listening, though. I mean, if you're like whatever age, doesn't matter, right? You're talking about because it seems like you thought that you're too old to do something, but something in you had a passion to complete whatever you thought that you couldn't do. Is that right, Katie?
Yeah, and you're never too old to start
Mm-hmm.
something new. I mean, I started
Mm-hmm.
this um well into my 30s and
Mm-hmm.
I know some people who have started in their 50s and 60s and 70s and I
Wow.
mean, although I wish I would have started sooner,
Yeah.
there's no time limit on when you can start something new. And that's a beautiful thing.
Yes. I want to see if people out there, we're not millionaires or billionaires out there. And I'm assuming we're all starting somewhere, but let's say that we're just starting with ground zero, like if we have limited budgeting. What strategies did you use to build your business from scratch? Like, do you have any strategies you have or tips out there for those who are actually starting this from scratch, limited budgeting?
Well, that's a great question too. I didn't really know what I was getting into when I got into it. So my first piece of advice would be to research what you're doing before you just jump right in. But I'm more of a throw a spaghetti against the wall and see if it sticks type of person.
Nice.
So my biggest strategy was try to do as much as I could for free. So I would so I watched YouTube videos. I tried to take classes that were reasonably priced. I learned from others who had been through this journey. I reached out to people who had done this before, and I tried to do as much as I could by teaching myself. And I feel like there is a whole group of people now that in this self-taught community that it's really growing. And although I believe school's important, obviously I'm a teacher, I think that there's also a beauty in the ability to access all this information now, through the internet and everything.
Right. And now, Katie, I want to see if our listeners who made it this far into the interview, who are really engaged, what should they comment to let us know that they're still with us and are listening? What should they comment down below?
I think they should comment wander.
Wander. And that is spelled W-A-N as in Nancy, D-E-R. So comment down below the word wonder. Right now, comment down the word wonder. See if you comment down wonder.
I've always wanted to do that.
I know, right? Comment down the word wonder. I want to see if you made it this far. If you don't comment, all right, it's okay. Just listen. I appreciate if you comment something or say, I love you, Katie. I love your books. At least something, guys. Okay. Thank you. All right. Well, as we near the end, Katie, could you let us in on any upcoming events or future projects that you're really looking forward to and want your audience to stay tuned for?
Well, I don't have a whole lot of events planned. However, I do have a 6-book series about colors that I've been working on for a very long time, and I'm hoping to get them out, hopefully, fingers crossed, sometime this summer. And I also have another story that I kind of got sidetracked on. So originally I'm from Pennsylvania, and it's a punny book about everything in Pittsburgh. So I'm working on that as well.
Oh my goodness. I can't wait to purchase them. Oh my gosh, guys. You guys have to follow her journey. And again, what's the best way for our listeners to follow you and stay informed of all your latest work?
Well, I do have a website, but
Ooh.
I'm mostly on Instagram. So if you follow me, it's at Katie Gigliotti Books. And I'm also on Facebook and TikTok and all those fancy.
Ooh.
I'm also on Facebook and TikTok and all the different social medias, but I'm most active on Instagram.
All right. Well, that sounds all amazing and exciting journey ahead of you. Thank you so much, Katie, for joining us and sharing your insight. It's truly been a pleasure having you on my podcast.
Thank you so much for having me, Chelsea. I really appreciate you and all your insightful questions.
Thank you so much, Katie. And thank you to our guest, Katie Gigliotti, the author of the book, Wonder World, You Are, and All My Love, for sharing their story and wisdom. I have all her information in the description below, so be sure to follow Katie on all her journey. And to you, our listeners, thank you for tuning in. If today's episode at Chelsea Story Nook Podcast resonate with you, be sure to subscribe, leave a comment, and share this with someone who needs a little confidence boost. You can also connect with me, Mrs. Chelsea, your favorite homeroom teacher for shy students, on Instagram at Chelsea Story_Nook. Until next time, Keep growing, keep shining, and remember, your story is worth sharing. Take care, everyone, and carry it on. Bye, everyone.
Thank you for tuning in today's episode of Chelsea Story Nook Podcast, Shy to Shine, your gateway to success. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, leave a review, and share this podcast with someone who could use a little inspiration. We love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and let us know your biggest takeaway from today's episode. Until next time, keep growing, keep shining, and always remember your story is worth sharing. And let's carry it on.